I love books and they're my passion. Stories are my passion.
This is The Payoff with me, Sylvia Jeffries. Luke, welcome to The Payoff.
Oh, thanks for having me, Sylvia.
It is always comforting to be in the presence of fellow Queenslanders, I find. So you grew up in country Queensland.
Yeah.
How would you describe your childhood growing up on a farm in country Queensland?
Oh, the typical country upbringing on a farm. It was just, it was back before mobile phones and Xboxes and things like that. So we had a little bush basher that we'd drive around and we'd play down in like the shearing sheds, and it was just a typical country upbringing.
Happy, free.
Very
Yeah.
free,
Yeah.
very free. Yeah, I think there was no qualms of mum and dad leaving us kids at home alone.
Yeah. Pretty free range
Yeah,
lifestyle
yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
What are your first memories of reading books?
My very first memories of reading was my mum reading to us as kids. So my mum was a massive reader. My grandfather, my mother's father, he was a massive reader as well. So it's a long line of readers,
Yeah.
but my very first memories were mum read to us when we were growing up, and she would sit us down and, do story time in bed with her. And then I just started reading from the moment I could read. I actually remember I was in preschool, and I bought a book from the Scholastic Book Fair, and I couldn't read at the time. But I used to sit there and I used to pretend to read. It was a Pokemon book, so I used to sit there with my Pokemon book and pretend to read my Pokemon book. And and my brother used to pay out on me, being like, "You can't read." And I'm like, "Yes, I can." No,
I can.
couldn't. Yeah.
I remember my mum encouraging me to read The Famous Five and The Secret Seven and those sort of adventure, mystery solving books.
Yeah.
As a kid, and I remember how much they inspired my imagination, and I think a sense of adventure as well. Was there a series that you got into in your childhood that did the same kind of thing for you?
Yeah. So, and this is one of the earliest series that I remember reading was the Children of the Lamp series by P.B. Kerr. And the two main characters in that book was a boy and a girl, twin brother and sister. And I have a twin sister. So I used to read those books, and I would envision the twin brother and sister as me and my sister in the books. And they were a family of like genies, and they went on, it was set on Earth, and they would go on these like international magical adventures. And as you said, like I had a massive imagination as a kid, and that was just like those books I love them so much because I could picture myself going on these magic carpet, adventures around the world.
Yeah. Well, it opens your eyes to so many things at a young age, doesn't it? And to possibilities
100%
beyond the property that you live in, in Western Queensland.
Absolutely. Like it just grows your imagination and your wonder for the world. When you're so, as you said, like when you're so isolated in a rural community, it makes you feel like anything's possible.
Yeah. So when did NRL start creeping into your life, and how did that kind of shift of book loving, child to absolute footy nut start merging?
Well, I don't think that I was ever a football nut. I loved playing football, and I was obviously like talented at it. And I think when you grow up in a rural community, especially in a Queensland rural community, rugby league was just what you did.
Religion.
It was the way of life. Like your grandfather played for the local club, your dad played for the local club, you played for the local club, all your friends played for the footy club. Like that was just what you did. And so I was just, as I said, I just followed the path that was paved before me. Started playing for the local footy club.
Were you cheering for the Broncos as a kid?
I think when I was like really young, I cheered for Parramatta.
Ah.
Yeah.
Why?
No idea. No idea. I do know why. It was because I had a Parramatta hat.
Yeah.
So when I was in primary school, I had a Parramatta hat, and I was just like, well, that's my team.
Hooked.
I was like, that's who I cheer for. But then once I got a little bit older, I started going for the Cowboys because they were Queenslanders. And then when I signed with the Raiders at 12, I started supporting the Raiders.
You signed with them at 12?
Yeah.
How did that come about? Scouts.
Scouts, yeah. So I was at the state schoolboys carnival, and all the the scouts were there, and got approached by a few different clubs, and they put the offers on the table. Just like not money, it was just like training scholarships, and we decided to go with the Raiders. Yeah.
And how did your parents feel about that level of commitment to footy at that stage? Were they all in? Did they have any reservations?
I think, like they knew that it was like my dream to play in the NRL. So I think they were just very happy.
Because what a great
me.
opportunity.
Yeah, they were very supportive. Like my parents were really supportive and never forceful. All decisions were like they talk. Like obviously I was a 12-year-old kid, so I didn't know what was going on most of the time. But they would talk with me through all the decisions and let me make them. They were never forceful or never pushed me to do anything. They were just very supportive and yeah, fantastic.
So how did life change for you when you went pro in the NRL?
Hard for me to, because I graduated school Friday and I drove to Canberra Monday. So I never...
No schoolies?
Hey,
no schoolies?
No schoolies, which still to this day I still have some gripes over.
Some regrets.
Yeah. Well, like I said,
I went to schoolies. You didn't miss much.
Oh, that's good to know. Good to know. But yeah, so I don't like my whole experience, I suppose, as a young adult, because I definitely wasn't a man then or a mature adult then. But my whole experience outside of school was football. So the change for me, I suppose, was in location because I moved to Canberra and just probably 5 days a week of training instead of like 3 or 4. But I didn't really have any life experience outside of school before I went into sort of full-time football.
You were 17 years old, 18 years old?
18, yeah.
And can I ask what kind of salary you're getting at that age? Because you don't have to go into all the details, but we often see stories about NRL players getting a lot very quickly and not really knowing what to do with it, I suppose. And that's not exclusive to the NRL. That's professional sport. It's a lot of things.
Absolutely. And that's my story to tell you. I think my first year as an 18-year-old, I earned $70,000. Which
that's a lot of money for an 18-year-old.
Massive amount of money. Like I'd be happy earning that now, and then it just like built from there quite quickly. Yeah.
And so, how were you managing your money at that age? Did you take advice? Did you seek advice? Were you churning and burning it?
How do you think an 18-year-old managed their money, Sylvia?
What were you spending it on, Luke?
Terribly. To be fair, I reckon when I was like 18, 19, 20, I was actually quite good with my money. I saved a lot and I was smart about it and made good decisions financially for probably like the first couple of years.
You made some investments?
Yeah. So I purchased my first property at 20. Which obviously is, an outlier, but I was making a good income, and I purchased my first property at 20, which was a, very fulfilling and very proud moment for me. But then after that, I would say decisions changed, and it was very much, as you said, like churning and burning. And when you're getting huge amounts of money just land in your account, and you know that that's happening every month, and you've got disposable, like 80% of your income is probably disposable, it leads you to some reckless decisions.
And you have been very open about the fact that a bit further down the track, you had some big problems with gambling, right?
Yeah.
How bad did that get for you? What did that look like? If you don't mind me asking.
No, of course. It was completely horrible. Like, it's really like it's hard to paint the picture of just how I would say broken my life was at its worst. And as I've spoken I'm very open about my gambling addiction, and I would say it really picked up from around that age of like 21. So I bought a house and had a nice car and rented a nice place and had a lot of nice things. And then once I sort of had all those things and I still had all of this money coming in, and I would also say there was, the money coming in, plus I started struggling like personally, not financially. Like I had a lot of like mental struggles, and those two things combined became, I sought an out. Like I sought something that an escape, something that would just take me away from all the pain that I was feeling, all the suffering that I was going through. Obviously, all that did was increase my suffering and pain tenfold. But that's addiction, and all that cash just sitting there, and all the spare time I had. Like, and when you're ingrained in a culture, and professional sporting cultures are gambling cultures, like it's ingrained into those cultures. It's just a part, like it's just the same as breathing. Gambling just goes hand in hand, and I just started spending. I was spending 100% of my salary on gambling.
Wow.
Yeah, and I still have my property today, which I'm very fortunate for, and the only reason that I have that is because my mum was paying my mortgage for me.
Wow. So what was the turning point? How did you break that cycle?
Oh, it was extremely difficult, and a very long and arduous journey which had many setbacks. But I think at the end of 2019, I got to the point where I was at the end of the tracks, and I said to myself, there's no further to go here. This goes one or two ways. I'll either end up in a coffin, or I have to change my life. And I made the decision then. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to seek help. And that was in 2019. And then my mum always wanted me, or like all my family wanted me to go to rehab, and I kept denying it because I felt so much shame around it. Like I felt a lot of shame around that. I didn't want to be the person who went to rehab. I didn't, I was like so secretive around all this stuff. Like I was broke. I was depressed. I was broken. Like I wasn't a human being. And yet I still was like, I can't go to rehab. Like that's below me, which is ridiculous. But so after I made a decision in 2019, and things got slowly better over the next sort of 12 or 18 months. But then it just got to the point where I was like, okay, I feel like I've really stalled here and I'm starting to slip backwards. And I just said, I need to go to rehab, and made a decision, went to rehab in 2021. And that was absolutely like a life-changing decision for me.
Well, good on you for doing that.
Oh, thank you.
Not everyone makes it.
Yeah.
Not everyone makes it that far.
100%.
And it's not an easy, going to rehab is never an easy thing. Getting there is not an easy thing. And then being there and doing the work is even harder, right?
Absolutely. Like the easy thing, as you said, like the easy thing was going to rehab, actually doing the work, doing the personal work, doing the healing work on yourself is the most incredibly, I would say, like takes so much effort and so much sacrifice to pull yourself out from that place.
So now that, a lot of time has passed, have you been able to and again, I hope this isn't too personal, but, with the benefit of time, have you been able to identify what it was mentally that got you to that space? You don't accidentally fall into a mental pit like that, do you? Can you see, I suppose, was it loneliness? Was it fear? Was it anxiety that was sort of driving those feelings for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, Sylvia. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Looking back now, with obviously the knowledge and everything that I know now, I was very like detached from who I was who I am. And I think, the cultures and the industries that I was in really forced me to discard some really large parts of my soul, I would say. And it was a real mix. I look back at it and there was a real mix of things. Like there was a number of sort of issues that just combined to create, a hurricane. And that was I was really debased from who I am as a person and living very unauthentically. And then I was very unfulfilled and very sort of lost in my career. And I also really struggled mentally with depression, and I sought, I suppose, like my techniques of soothing were very harmful, and just like a lack of knowledge and a lack of education and a lack of tools to even have the awareness. Like when I would feel something and I didn't know what I was feeling, you know, and I was just like, okay, well, I'm in a lot of pain. I don't know what that is. I don't know how to describe that. I don't know how to help that. So I'm just gonna pour stuff on top of it until it's silent. And the things I poured on top of it were obviously like gambling, and drinking and drugs as well. And so looking back now, I think, you know, just a mix of being so detached from who I am as a person, being very like separated from my soul, and also having mental health issues and lack of purpose and direction and a lack of education and awareness.
Is it true that you would lock yourself in the bathroom on trips away as a footy player so that you could have half an hour to read a book without your teammates knowing that you were reading?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I used to literally go and you'd be in a hotel. I would go into the hotel toilets and lock the door. And
What were you afraid of? What do you think? How do you think they would have reacted if they'd known that you were in there reading a romantic novel? Or something?
It was more, not so much a romance, more fantasy.
Yeah.
But like I think, and I don't think that this is I don't think this is a culture specifically to rugby league. I think this is a broader culture in just men in general, is that like reading and sort of more, I suppose, literature and what may even be deemed like feminine sort of, I suppose, feminine activities are really, you know, severely disencouraged. And if I were to pull a book out, like a fantasy book about dragons in front of 20 other footy blokes, you can
You
only
wouldn't have heard
imagine.
the end of it.
No, you wouldn't have
Yeah.
heard the end of it. It would have been like nerd, you know, or it's.
I mean, you could have played
Yeah.
for St. George.
Yeah.
He would have fit right in.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
we laugh, but we are at, and I think about this a lot as a mother of two boys.
yeah.
I think about this a lot, that the world is crying out for positive role models when it comes to modern masculinity. And there are so many wonderful things about masculinity.
Yeah.
But I think there's also such confusion and misinformation and some really dangerous ideas floating around online around what masculinity should look like. And, you know, on paper, you ticked all the boxes. You had a home, you had a fancy car, you had a job with a big salary. You know, you were a masculine footy player, right?
Yeah.
You were fit and strong and all of those things. What do you think the checklist should look like for positive masculinity?
Another fantastic question again, Sylvia.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm very passionate about this subject because, once again, like I was in probably one of the most masculine environments that you can possibly be in, professional male sports. One of the, you know, the most masculine environments you can be in. And it came with, as you said, it came with the, I suppose, reverence and the paycheck and the status.
You're idolised.
Absolutely, you know, your young kids' role models. And yet I think that the values and the virtues that industries and institutions like that sort of uphold or instill are really corrosive to men. Personally, my view on masculinity, I'm actually really not a fan of like masculinity. For me, I aim for humanity. And I think as a man, you're masculine. If you're a man, like you will be masculine. Like I think aiming for masculinity, my issue with masculinity is I think masculinity tells boys how to be men. It tells boys how to not be women. And that's like, and the message is not, this is how you be a man. The message is, this is how you don't be a woman. And so you don't have guidance. You just have like, well, I can't be that. You know, I can't be soft. I can't be caring. I can't be nurturing. I can't show emotions. And that's what, and masculinity says, don't be those things. And it doesn't say, you know, this is what you should be. And I feel like for me, my journey was to humanity. And that's, as I said, that's courage and honesty, discipline, joy, humor, like those things. And as a man, your masculinity will show through. If you aim to be a well-rounded, integrated human being, you will naturally step into like a masculine presence. And I think that discardation of femininity in men is actually really harmful, because there's so many parts of myself that people would describe, like you would be described as feminine. Like I'm very soft. I like to be very kind. I like to love, like I love to cuddle, like things like that. Like, you know, and masculinity says you can't do that. Whereas I think that those things are so beautiful, and integrated men are very nurturing, very kind, very caring men.
At the end of the day, too, it's a reflection of society on the whole.
Absolutely.
You know, and these are big shifts that have to happen in every corner of society.
Well, actually, in that regard, I actually do think that it begins in schools. Like it begins with our kids. You know, it has to be. I grew up and I was never this stuff was never talked about. It was never taught, like social skills, like awareness, like mental health tools, like none of that was taught in schools. And I had to learn all of that myself through books. Like I literally had to go out and read psychology books and self-help books and self-development books. And that's where I developed all those tools and the skills and even like the vocabulary to even just like work through that with myself. Like we need to be putting this into schools. Like these frameworks and these tools and the awareness needs to start in schools. Like a boy should not leave school as a 17-year-old and not be able to describe like his inner world and his emotions. I think that that's a massive step there.
Okay, let's talk book talk now. We've all seen the videos of you inside the tractor giving your reviews of the latest fantasy series or novel, and gee, you do it well. Okay, how did this all start though? What was the catalyst for you sharing your first book talk review?
Yeah, once again, like it comes back to like my entire life story. I'd sort of, you know, I'd really discarded the part of me that loved books, and in, you know, coming back to health and wellness and integration, I really reconnected with like the young version of me that loved books and loved magic and loved dragons. And so I really got back into my reading, really got back into my fantasy worlds and loved it. And I just got to the point where, because I'm so isolated with work, because I work out in Western Queensland and have my business out there, because I was so isolated, and I was finally like, I felt as an adult, like I was like finally living like this authentic version of myself. And I was 30, I was like, I'm 30 years old. I've never been able to talk about.
Gosh, you're only 30 years old.
Yeah.
You've done a lot, man. You've lived a life. My God.
Oh yeah, I've done a few different things.
Yeah.
I was fine. Well, I feel as a 30-year-old, like my life is sort of like a real life for me is like only sort of just begun the last couple of years. So, and that's sort of where the journey took me to, is I was like, I just want to be a nerd. Like I just want to talk to other nerds. I want to talk about dragons. I want to talk about magic. And because I'm so isolated, I'm like, I can do that. I'm going to have to turn to the internet to do that. And I was telling my friend this, and she said to me, she said, you should jump on Book Talk. I'd never had a TikTok before. And I was just like, what is Book Talk? And she said, oh, it's just a subsection of TikTok where all they do is talk about books. And I was like, oh, like they sound like my people.
It's where I belong.
Yeah. This year I was like, that's where I belong. That's my community. And that's just where it came from. So I just was like, well, I'm just going to start. I just want to talk about books.
So
there.
how many views has that first clip had now?
I actually don't know.
2 million at last count or something?
It's up there somewhere. Yeah. And it's so funny because like I thought I was like, I'll just record this video, 10 people will see it, and if I can just find like one friend to talk
about books with,
magic with, that's like I was like that'd be great. And I uploaded that video, and I've watched that video again, and like I'm stumbling and I'm umming and ahhing, and it's like it's not a good video. And then I woke up the next morning, and there was like 500,000 views on it the next morning. Yeah.
oh my God. And what kind of comments and reactions were you getting from people?
Oh well, to be fair, in the beginning it was mainly like a lot of objectification from women. Like I don't think what made that video pop off or blow up was what was said. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Judging by the comments.
Yeah, just judging
okay.
by the comments. Yeah.
Well, all of it is just very unlikely,
yeah.
right? Like big buff NRL player sitting in his tractor reviewing the latest dragon fantasy story.
Yes. Very unexpected.
It's unexpected.
Yeah.
And that's part of the appeal, right?
Absolutely.
For people who are following along.
Yes,
obviously.
yes, of course. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so how many books have you reviewed now? Where are we at with your book talk?
I don't know. I mean this wholeheartedly. Like I do not look at like views. I do not look at followers. I just upload my videos because I want to share them with the world.
Yeah.
And then I interact with the community who comments, and people who've read them, people who want to read it. So it's going amazing.
So how long after the first video did the publishing deal come along?
I think it was like 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 months.
That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And what happened? They reached out to you and they were like, any interest in writing something?
No, actually. So I started writing a book at the start of the year.
Yeah.
For myself, because I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to die without ever having written a book, because writing a book is something like I've wanted to do since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I just got to the point where I was like, no, I have to do this, because if I was lying on my deathbed and I hadn't written a book, I would, it would be a regret. So I started writing in January and was doing it just, as a hobby and really enjoying it. And then the book talk thing happened, and I said to my manager, I said, one day I really want to be an author. And I've started writing this book, and one day I would just love to be an author. And my manager said to me, was like, well, why wait? Mm. And I was like, well,
good question.
Yeah, I was like, great question. I said, yeah, I suppose so. And he said, like, I can, I'll reach out to some publishers and we'll see what we can do. So I reached out to some publishers and set up a meeting, and I pitched. I pitched a trilogy. I had everything planned. I was already writing the first book.
So you had to send in some samples of what you'd written, yeah?
Send in everything. At that point, I'd written 10,000 words, and I sent in the whole, the character arcs and the story arcs, and the relationship arcs, everything for all three books, and all the themes that I wanted. Like each book sort of has a different theme and everything. And I sent all of that to him, did a Zoom and pitched everything to him. And the deal came about from that. So
congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
That's
very
amazing.
Much. Yeah, it was truly it was the most fulfilling moment of my life. More fulfilling than my NRL debut. It was, that was 10-year-old Luke, or a 7-year-old Luke was,
wrapped.
Yeah.
So the reaction obviously wasn't all positive, as you've spoken about in the past. Some people in the literary world, sort of pointing out that it's so hard for other people to get a publishing deal, and yours came along so quickly. You got a 2-book publishing deal, right?
Yep.
How did some of that reaction affect you? Did it affect you?
Yeah, absolutely. It affected me. I was really, really upset for a number of days, and I was disappointed in a way that, something for me that was such a moment of like a lifelong fulfillment was met with sort of hatred from other people. And it took me a little bit to sort of, I suppose, process that and come to terms with that, and then show the situation like empathy and compassion and step out of my shoes and into other people's.
Well, because the discussion was that there is a lack of diversity in the publishing world, and they used you as an example, but you're not to blame for a lack of diversity on the whole in the publishing industry, right? And if someone comes to you someone came to me tomorrow with a 2-book deal, I've never written anything in my life, I would absolutely say, yes, I will find a way to write those 2 books, But
yeah. But I think, there was, a lot of people's reaction was also based on like a lack of information as well. People thought it was just like some random dude who put videos online got a 2-book deal. Nobody knew my history with writing.
You'd already been writing.
Nobody knew that I'd already been writing. No one knew much about me and my story. And so that's what I said, I hold a lot of space for those emotions and those reactions because, as I said, being able to be empathetic and compassionate towards what they've, other people's struggles, is really important. So, and I do really understand that. But, in terms of diversity, and sort of an ex-NRL player, farmer from Western Queensland writing.
It does actually mix things
fantasy,
up a little bit.
there is an element of diversity there.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, what can you tell us about the books that you've written so far? I know you can't give us a full spoiler, but just a little.
I would love to tell you everything, but it's a coming of age story, and I've taken a lot of what I went through my life journey in terms of the ups and the downs and the success and the failures and the personal, I would say like the outward journey that I went through and the inward journey I went through. A lot of those themes are going to be in the book. And as I said, it's a coming of age story. It's a self-discovery, self-actualization journey of a young boy who grows up in the country and discovers his magic. And then, once he's sort of discovered his magic, he really has to understand where that magic fits in the world and also how he uses that magic, which in the beginning would probably be pretty selfishly, but maybe, just maybe in the long run, it might help help more broadly.
And all of a sudden he's on Book Talk.
Yeah. So a lot of the themes, as I said, are, at its core, it's a journey of self-discovery.
And next minute you've got a podcast. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
This is a great time for you. Life is going from one positive thing to the next at the moment. It feels like you've done a lot of hard work to get to this stage of your life. Tell us about the podcast, how it's going to work, what it's going to look like, who are you speaking to?
Yeah, so the podcast is something I'm truly, truly so excited about because when I started my journey of talking about books, I really wanted to find a community and grow a community and even create broader change amongst men and boys in reading. So I feel like this is a phenomenal step to be able to reach more people and have longer form conversations about like how meaningful and life-changing books can be. So the podcast is going to be very much like in line with that, and we're going to be talking about everything from how do you get into reading and like little tips and tricks on where to start with reading, different genres. We're going to be talking to authors. We're going to be talking to people who love reading, who you may know but not suspect that love reading. There's going to be guests that are much closer to my heart, like family members. It's going to be everything books. And if you're someone who is just starting in books or wants to get into books, or you're a seasoned pro, like there's going to be something for everybody.
I love that. What are you reading at the moment?
Oh, I'm just finishing Jade Legacy, which is the 3rd book in the Greenbone saga by Fonda Lee. So it's a fantasy. It's a picture Peaky Blinders if they were Asian and they had magic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're throwing
So
razor blades.
Yeah. So, and it's a fantastic series.
You legit light
Fantastic.
up when
No,
you
I-
talk about books. Are you aware of that?
But I've had people tell me that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an incredible series. So that's what I'm reading at the moment. I've only got I'm into the last probably like 10% of that, and it's in a real things are at a boiling point.
Things are getting pretty
things
hot.
are good. Yeah.
Okay, good. Things are good. Okay, great. I love it. You're gonna have to read that part on
Yeah.
your own, I think. Yeah. A little bit of quiet time. Where do you see all this going for you now? Are you feeling strategic about this? Or are you feeling that things are moving kind of beyond your control a little bit at the moment?
I definitely wouldn't say like beyond my control. Opportunities, like every opportunity that comes my way, I have the ability to say yes or no to. I really, like, as I said, where I want it to go long term is to have every like man and boy in Australia as avid readers. That's a big goal. Will I ever reach that? Probably not in my lifetime. But I love books, and they're my passion. Stories are my passion, and I'd love to be able to step into that space more and spend more time in it. And that, whether that be writing, podcasting, talking about it, promoting books, promoting stories, promoting authors, promoting everything to do with magic and fantasy and even all the other genres as well. Anything that way, I'm very excited for.
You're deep in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I haven't even asked you about yet is The Bachelor. Now, that is something where you have to give a lot of yourself and expose a lot of yourself. How was that experience for you?
It was a very fulfilling experience.
Was it?
Yes, it was. Yeah. I actually think that was a really key point of sort of like my growth journey. You know, that really put me into a position where I had to be vulnerable and had to really explore, I suppose, like explore myself in relation to others. Because up to that point in my journey had been very inner and personal, and that was a real case of being outward and interpersonal.
That's very deep.
Yes,
And when I speak to about, I don't often expect that level of depth.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
In response to The Bachelor.
I can make it more shallow.
But I love.
It was
I
fun.
don't want
It
shallow.
It was fun, Sylvia.
I really appreciate the depth, and I imagine being on a show like that would be really difficult because I'm in a sort of public facing role. I'm very protective of certain elements of my life, and so I wonder if there was anything that you were sort of worried about putting on show, or if you were happy to just go along with it and be really vulnerable to that process.
Yeah, I am a very vulnerable person,
Yeah.
as you might know, as you might have experienced, and so. But I think at that stage, that was when I was still quite secretive around my addiction and rehab and sort of things like that. And I was concerned about that coming out because that was at a time in my life where I wasn't so confident about speaking about it openly. So that was one of the things I was very scared about making public. I didn't actually have to. But that was something. But in terms of everything else...
Did it feel a bit like a skeleton in the closet?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And taking ownership of that, and airing that, once again, is just another step in sort of like in integration, in my integration journey. Yeah.
Did your parents watch you on The Bachelor?
Yeah, they did.
What did they? And your twin sister?
I don't think my twin watched it. Nah, she couldn't.
She couldn't hack
She
it.
doesn't care about
Yeah,
that stuff. Yeah, she's just like, you're in it. Yeah. But my mum watched, and she was happy. She was proud of me. Yeah.
How do you describe the impact that your mum has had on your life? 'Cause she sounds like a pretty amazing person.
My mum gave me life. My mum has saved my life. Sorry, I'll get a bit teary. My mum is single-handedly the most important, pivotal person in my life, and I wouldn't be here today without her. Not just obviously because she gave birth to me, but there were some really key points in my life where she picked me up and she carried me through them.
What's her name?
Leanne.
Leanne. Big shout out to Leanne.
Yeah, we love you, Leanne.
We love the mums. We love the great mums. I bet she's pretty proud of what you're doing right now.
Yeah, she is. She's finally gotten to a point. There was a number of years where I was caused her a lot of headaches, but she's very much gotten to a point now where she's very proud of the man that I am.
So what is, do you think, the lesson for our listeners in Luke Bateman's life story so far? We're still in the very early chapters of it, of course, but what would you think that our listeners would take away from your life story so far?
Another fantastic question, Sylvia.
Thank you. You're welcome. You can come back anytime.
Before you express yourself outwardly, integrate yourself internally. And it is so important to understand yourself and know yourself and be able to speak to all the different parts of yourself through every situation in life, whether they be like joyous, sad, difficult, and being able to be an internal leader of yourself is the single-handedly the most important thing in the world. And once you have that in order, everything externally will align with that.
I mean, I think I can skip therapy this week. You've just done it. That's all I need to hear.
Okay, fantastic.
You're a marvel. It's so nice to chat. So In the Good Books, the podcast is out now, wherever you get your good podcasts, probably where you also listen to The Payoff with Sylvia Jeffries. Congratulations on the podcast. When are we going to get these books? Or is that still under lock and key?
Thank you. And no, the books are coming. My first book is penciled in for January 2027.
Okay.
But we'll be speaking to my publisher and hopefully we can get it to you sooner.
Okay.
But we'll see.
All right. Well, Luke, it's been an absolute delight. Such a pleasure to chat. And thank you so much for being so open and being so vulnerable and being so honest and funny. And it's just been lovely to chat. We really appreciate it.
No, thank you, Sylvia. And once again, thank you for the amazing questions.
You got it. Come back anytime. I got more.